If you're still trying to motivate your team with just pep talks and pizza parties, you're doing it wrong. Motivation, the kind most leaders use, doesn't actually work the way you think it does. In fact, some of what you're doing right now to keep your team motivated is quietly making things worse. In the next few minutes, I'm going to give you what to do instead. A framework built on research from McKinsey, Gallup, and LinkedIn, and on what I have personally watched work inside real teams across real industries. This is not a pep talk about pep talks. This is the shift that separates leaders whose teams would follow them anywhere from the ones who keep losing good people and can't figure out why. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Mary. I've spent years working with teams across industries, studying what actually separates high-performing teams from average ones. And on this channel, I share real leadership insights that most leaders only discover after wasting years and losing great employees to trial and error. If you want a team that becomes your single biggest competitive advantage, you're in the right place. Now, let's talk about the thing almost every leader gets wrong. Here is a stat that should stop you cold. Gallup's recent research shows that 69% of employees worldwide are disengaged at work. So, why is disengagement so high when companies are spending billions on bonuses, offsites, and motivational speakers? Because they are focusing on external motivators that treat the symptoms, not the cause. You see, external motivators work like sugar rushes. They give you a quick spike in energy, then everyone crashes back to the baseline. So, if you're only relying on these external motivators, you're building your team on a shaky foundation. Modern teams need something deeper. They need intrinsic drivers that create sustainable, long-term performance, the kind that doesn't evaporate the moment the bonus check is used up. So, when I say forget motivation, what I mean is stop relying on these shallow, short-term tactics and start building an environment where people are intrinsically driven to perform. I call it the 7 intrinsic performance drivers. Let me walk you through them. Driver 1, build clarity, not hype. Think about the most confused you've ever felt in a job. That low-grade anxiety of not being sure if you're doing the right thing, working on the right priorities, or meeting expectations nobody clearly told you about. Now imagine your team carrying that feeling every single day. Gallup found that lack of role clarity is one of the key drivers of employee disengagement. Confusion. The brutal irony, the more you try to pump up a confused team, the more disconnected you look from their reality. A leader shouting, "You've got this," at a team that doesn't know what this is, stops being inspiring and starts being irrelevant. Here's what this looks like in practice. Not just, we need to improve customer satisfaction, but by the end of Q2, we need to reduce customer response time from 24 hours to 12 hours because 67% of our churn happens when customers don't hear back from us within a day. See the difference? One is vague, the other is crystal clear. And when people have clarity, they don't need you trying to pump them up. They know exactly what to do, and they get to work. Action item for you. Before your next team meeting, write one sentence per person. What does success look like for them this quarter? If you can't do it, that's your first problem to solve. Driver 2, create a sense of purpose and impact. Clarity tells people what to do. Purpose tells them why it matters. Here's what research shows. Employees who understand how their work connects to the organization's broader mission are significantly more engaged and committed. They're not showing up for a paycheck. They're showing up because they believe their work means something. Here's how this plays out in reality. Let's say you're managing a customer support team. You could frame their work like this. Your job is to answer tickets and close cases as quickly as possible. Or you could frame it like this. Your job is to be the lifeline for customers who are frustrated, confused, or stuck. When you solve their problem, you're not just closing a ticket, you're saving their day. You're the reason they trust us. You're the reason they stay. You see the difference? Same job, completely different sense of purpose. And here's the thing, people need this. They want to know that what they're doing matters in the overall picture. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And when you give them that connection, when you help them see the impact of their work, they don't need you to motivate them. That is the motivation they need. Try this. In your next one-on-one, ask, do you know how what you're working on connects with what we're trying to achieve? The answers will tell you everything. Driver 3, give autonomy and ownership. Micromanagement is a motivation killer, period. When you hover, demand hourly updates, and second guess every decision, you're not managing. You're training your people to stop thinking. Teaching them their judgment doesn't matter, and they will listen to you. They will stop exercising it. Then one day, you'll complain your team has no initiative, that they wait to be told what to do, that you're carrying everything. I hate to tell you this, but you built exactly the team your behavior called for. Truth is, modern teams thrive when they have ownership of their work, when they're given the freedom to make decisions or at least involved in the decision-making process. Now, some of you are thinking, well, I tried autonomy and they dropped the ball. Here's the honest answer. That's usually a clarity problem in disguise. People can't own a target they can't clearly see. Go back to driver 1. To be clear, autonomy doesn't mean abandonment. It doesn't mean you throw your team into the deep end and tell them, figure it out. No, it means you set clear goals, provide the resources and context they need, set them up for success, and then trust them to get it done. When you do this, people step up. They take ownership. They start thinking like business partners, not just employees. They care about outcomes, not just outputs, because you've made it theirs. Let them make decisions. And yes, occasionally make mistakes. A team that never makes mistakes never makes decisions. And a team that never makes decisions can't scale without you. The autonomy audit. Look at last week's calendar. How many decisions did you make that someone on your team could have made? Start there. Driver 4. Create opportunities for growth and mastery. LinkedIn's Workforce Learning Report says 94% of employees will stay longer if their company invested in their development. 94%. Retention, one of the most expensive problems in any organization, nearly solved with one thing: making people feel like they're growing. This is something most leaders miss. People aren't just working for a paycheck. They're working to become someone. They want to grow. And when you invest in their development, when you give them opportunities to learn, to upskill, to take on new challenges, you're tapping into one of the most powerful intrinsic motivators that exists. Most companies treat development as an annual event, a seminar, a checkbox on the performance review. That's not development. Real development is in the everyday texture of work. Maybe it's pairing junior team members with senior mentors. Maybe it's dedicating time each month for skill building or allowing people to explore projects outside their immediate role. Here is what happens when people feel stagnant. They don't immediately quit. They coast. Here is a growth question. In your next check-in, what skill do you most want to build in the next 6 months? And how can I help you do that in the work you're already doing? That question does more for retention than any bonus. Driver 5, build psychological safety and trust. This is the one, the single driver that makes all the others possible. Harvard's Amy Edmondson studied teams across industries. Her conclusion? The biggest differentiator between high-performing and average teams wasn't talent, resources, or even strategy. It was whether people felt safe to speak up without fear of punishment or judgment. Does a team feel safe enough to challenge your ideas, to raise concerns, to admit when they've made a mistake? If the answer is no, or even I'm not sure, you have a problem. Think about it. If people are afraid to speak up when they see a problem, that problem doesn't get fixed. If they're afraid to admit they made a mistake, they hide it until it becomes a bigger issue. If they're afraid to challenge a bad idea, that bad idea moves forward unchecked. And before you know it, you don't have a team. You have actors reading from a script. Everyone's just going through the motions, afraid to rock the boat. So, how do you build psychological safety? It starts with you. When someone challenges your idea, do you get defensive? Or do you say, tell me more? When someone makes a mistake, do you shame them? Or do you say, what did we learn from this? The way you respond to vulnerability, to honesty, to risk-taking, to mistakes, that's what creates the culture. Do this consistently and your team start contributing at a completely different level. They raise risks before they become disasters. They challenge assumptions that need to be challenged. They admit mistakes early so they can be fixed quickly. And that's when you get real innovation. That's when you get real problem solving. You unlock collaborative intelligence your team has always had, but was never safe enough to use. The litmus test: when did someone last disagree with you in a meeting? If you can't remember, that's your answer. Driver 6, remove roadblocks. Don't just chair. Gallup's Q12 engagement research shows having the right tools and environment to do the job is a key driver of employee engagement. Let me be blunt. Motivation speeches won't matter if your team is stuck. Here's what I mean. If your team spends 3 hours a day wrestling with bad software, navigating bureaucratic approval processes, or sitting in pointless meetings, no amount of "you've got this" is going to fix that. Your job as a leader isn't just to cheer from the sidelines, it's to clear the path. That means broken processes, fix them. Too many silos between departments, break them. Outdated tools slowing people down, upgrade them. Too many meetings killing productivity, cancel half of them. When you remove the friction that's slowing your team down, you don't need to motivate them. They will naturally move faster. Ask this in your next meeting or one-on-one. If you could remove one thing from your work week that adds no value, what would it be? Then act on the most popular answer you get. That act sends a message that echoes for months. Driver 7, recognize progress, not just outcomes. Most leaders recognize outcomes, the closed deal, the launch product, the hit target. That matters, but big outcomes don't happen every day. If recognition only comes at the finish line, your team can go for weeks or months without any acknowledgement. Gallup and WorkHuman reveals that recognition done well is one of the most powerful drivers of retention. But the thing here is, recognition works best when it celebrates progress, not just final wins. So here is what actually works. Recognizing the small wins along the way. It's not just congrats on the launch. It's the way you handled that client call on Tuesday when they pushed back on pricing and you stayed calm but firm. That was real skill. Good work. When you recognize progress, not just outcomes, you're telling your team, I see you. I see the effort, not just the result. That's the recognition that makes someone proud to be on your team. That's the recognition that makes someone turn down another offer. The habit. Block 10 minutes every Friday. One question. Who on my team did something worth acknowledging this week? And what specifically was it? One person, one observation, delivered before Wednesday. So there you have it. 7 things that actually drive team performance without pep talks. If you're wondering where to start with driver 5, psychological safety. Psychological safety is the foundation. Without it, the other 6 don't fully land. Fix the culture first. Layer everything else after. So forget trying to be the motivational speaker for your team. They don't need another pep talk. They need a leader who does the 7 things. So before you go, share this with another leader who's stuck in motivation mode. Subscribe for more of this every week. and drop a comment. Which of these 7 drivers does your team need most right now? The leaders who build the best teams aren't superhuman. They're the ones doing these 7 things. This is your edge. Go use it. I'll see you in the next video.